Wassail. So, court cards. I've been putting this one off because court cards are the hardest cards in the tarot. You know, everything else seems to assign itself a particular meaning, but court cards are very difficult because we're not kings and queens as such, and so, well, they come with layer upon layer of complication, and I've been kind of, I want to say, slightly running scared. And when I was leaving Lisbon, I was trying to go to Evora to go and see all of the lovely Neolithic sites, Chapel of Bones, and somehow I couldn't find anywhere to stay and was led to here in Strill. And it turns out that the energy here is about fallen monarchs and spies and lies. And so it seems very, very appropriate for me to be here right now working on the court cards. And even since I've been here for about 10 days, I've still been avoiding the whole subject of it and just doing any reading that I could do, because I don't want to delve into this because it's very difficult. Ultimately, this is going to be a very simplistic first court card reading. We'll look at them in more detail in another workshop, but I do need to get this one underway. I also need to put this somewhere, which I didn't think about, while it's burning. I'll stand it up there. Have a sip of water. So I've been for a swim, and lovely old Neptune has told me I have to do this now because at this moment in the UK it's the funeral of Prince Philip, and so there's this additional energy of the kind of the court cards, the gathering of, like a Durban, the gathering of princes and monarchs that took place in India in about the early part of the 20th century. So we're gonna court cards. Yes, court cards. So I even don't know how to begin explaining court cards in many ways because of the layer upon layer of complexity. So what I've done is I've laid them all out in their sections, and at the moment I've got the Morgan Greer tarot on top, and so we're going to use those to begin with, I think. So let's just push into this notion now. Court cards are complicated in many ways because they're masculine heavy, and that bothers me. And so we always begin with pages, and then we have knights, two male energies, and then we have queens, and then we have kings. Now, underneath, in the Thoth deck by Aleister Crowley and Lady Freida Harris, we have something which has become much more popular, which is to make the page a princess. And then we have a prince. And then we have a queen. And then in this deck we have a knight, which is a king. It just behaves differently. Whether that's helpful or not, I'm never quite sure. But the point of doing court cards is that when we first start to read tarot, we need to simplify them. When you first learn tarot, it's really important to practice reading on yourself. Now, lots of people will say you can't read for yourself, you shouldn't read for yourself, you shouldn't keep asking questions. That's how you learn. Just do readings about yourself. Choose aspects that you want to look at within yourself, and they will help you. So what I've done to simplify this, and there is an article that I wrote about how you ought to see the court cards. We're going to look at them in their most simplistic form, which is that each court card represents a different aspect of your soul under the influence of that element. So obviously we begin, as always, with the suit of wands, fire. Then that moves on to the suit of cups, water. Then we have swords, which is air. And then we have pentacles, which is earth. Now, if you've been following all the previous workshops, you'll know that there's a sense within the ordering of things that you have the divine spark of fire, and ideas are nothing without the emotions of water and cups, and then the editing suite, the dominant suit at the moment because of air epoch, swords, and then they're all inner. They're all about your inner journey, your inner landscape, and then you have the outer landscape, which is pentacles. So to begin with, let's look at how I've sort of redefined the cards in that same way as having a page or a princess or a knave. I like to think of the very first, and I call these card 11 because they come after the 10 cards in the suit in each deck. For me, pages represent a seed. They're a birthing part of the aspect of your soul. When we almost all begin in page energy, and it's the seed has gone into the ground and it's just beginning to stick its head out of the soil and begin to develop its shoots because it already has its roots. We all have roots in all four suits. Oh, that rhymed. So the page of each of the different suits is a seed. The knights, I like to kind of call them like a warrior. They're very much a kind of teenage element as opposed to the kind of childlike element of the pages. And the interesting thing about knights go in kind of a bit gung-ho a lot of the time, and they're kind of like being teenage. We've got the notion of something. We've learned to move past the notion of being the seed, the page, and we suddenly go out and we just do things without having the full maturity and experience of knowledge. Then we have queens. Now, for me, queens are to bloom because queens are empress energy. So you've had feminine birthing, we've had masculine growth, and now we have Empress energy. Now, Empress energy, if you refer back to the original major arcana, you'll remember that they're kind of when life force is birthed, but the queens don't tend to do anything about editing. They just love life. And it's when you have the Emperor energy that you get the pruning. So these are very much to bloom. It's the bloom of frequency of the divine feminine Empress energy. And then we have kings. Now kings, for me, they represent a balance between divine masculine and divine feminine. And I often refer to them as being like a Zen. The Zen of wands, the Zen of cups, the Zen of swords, and the Zen of pentacles. But they have a sense of balance, and they're very, very difficult to achieve. They turn up in readings, but it doesn't mean we've necessarily got there. It's something that we need to work on. So let's look at, just for the moment, the Morgan Greer, and then we'll look into each other area as we go along. So another thing that we need to consider when we look at these cards is the direction that they face. Now, the Page of Rods holds his rod here, and he faces towards the future. Because it's the beginning, it's the divine spark within our soul that looks forwards. It doesn't have a history. It doesn't think about a history. It's brand new. It's a frequency that's moving onwards. It's pushing its head out of the soil and beginning to grow. And then with this page, you begin to, with this knight, or warrior, again, facing towards the future, but now there's something very relaxed about the energy of the wand being carried over the shoulder. I'm going to go into them in more depth. I'm just trying to show you here about the aspect of the direction and the way in which certain cards look at you from within, because they're asking you questions about you and your soul. So then we have the Queen. Now look, this Queen faces you fearlessly, face on, and she holds her wand very, very firmly. And she carries a sunflower because that represents the fire image and being in comfort with the world around her. Now, interestingly, the King of Wands, or the Zen of Wands, he faces backwards. So he's looking at reviewing. He kind of, you know, he's a family, and the family is all the different aspects of you that you've grown through. So you can see here the movement forwards, turning face on when you reach the Queen, and then the King looking, oh, I've got the mirror thing going on. So the King, I'm never going to get used to this mirror. I should have had some practice at being a hairdresser. They're brilliant at working in reflections. So the King is looking back as if to say, once you reach the level of zenness around ideas and thoughts and that inspires and fires you, you need to look back and review what has gone on in your life. Now, have a look at this seed or page or knave of cups. Here we have that wonderful blueness, but this guy's kind of, you know, not engaged in any sort of emotion. There are emotions within this card, but the emotions are not ready yet. They're not, they've not grown at all. And there's all this wonderful sort of flourishing of watery thoughts and emotions, like a sort of a halo around our mind and our consciousness. And here we have the cup with the fish, and the fish represents that notion of leaping out into the real world, bringing emotional language towards the fire that we had before. And then we have this wonderful knight or warrior. Now, he faces towards the future. And it's a very, this card can be a very difficult card with so many layers. As you'll see when we go through each individual set of tarot decks, they all represent a different aspect of how we approach that particular suit. So he holds his cup close to his chest. He's saying, I have my emotions. I know what I wish to do with my emotions. But we need to remember he's still very much like a teenager. It's like first love. He's all wrapped up in armor and he's protected. And then we have the Queen. And the Queen, she's looking backwards. She's looking backwards at what pain the knight caused in his immaturity. So she's looking backwards and she holds her cup higher, and she's got this sense within her with the sea behind her. She has another hand, she's holding her cup with two hands, almost like this, as she looks backwards. Actually, it should have been that way. It's that mirror again. So she's looking back to review the things, and she's almost protecting the emotions, because the Queen of Cups, while being supreme, beautiful, flowing emotions, can also be a dangerous energy of smothering, that kind of notion of smother love, of that pushing so much love into something that you destroy it. So a very powerful energy. And then the king, he has all this turbulent water behind him, and he holds his cup in his hand of the now, because for me, the left-hand side is the past, the right-hand side is the future. So he's got his cup. It's just what I find interesting in this deck is the cups themselves have no liquid in them. They contain no water. The emotions are outside of the people almost, but it's telling you actually that the emotions in truth are not this vessel that you carry, but they are you. You are the emotions. So then we move on to the Seed of Swords. Now, another thing that often happens with pages are they're often seen as messages, early messages. And this is very interesting in this one because we've gone to a new kind of tonality here. We're bringing in kind of browns and umbers, and just down here there's 3 columns and a 4th one that's fallen. This is kind of, there's a sense of warlike editing, because this is the edit suite, this suit. It has wonderful edges of purple, and this colour of the sleeve is not a common colour in these cards, with this lovely peach background and the sky. There's this sense of like an inner knowing, third eye knowledge coming across within it, and very often they're with feathers and things that they have in their different hats and crowns and things. These represent thought and intelligence. So we move on to the Knight or Warrior of Swords. Again, this wonderful brown tonality. But here in this one, he's got this fierce fire that he's lit that needs to be, I want to say it's almost like he's a blacksmith. It's an energy of, because his sword is tinged with red. It's like he's put his sword into the heat and the fire so that it will cut through anything. And he's got a sense of, there's a sense of seeing. He has spikes on his helmet, very small little pointed spikes, and a long kind of horse's tail, which is that suggestion of sort of freedom, but it's also a suggestion of kind of taking control of things and dealing with things face on. And then we have the Queen of Swords, one of my most favourite cards. Not just because she's Libra, but she's changing the palette of everything. And to me, right now that we're in Air Epoch, she's one of the most powerful energies. Look at this wonderful blood red. She's staring directly at you, whereas the other two both are moving forwards. They're both pushing their energy towards this motion of the Queen. Oh, the Queen. So this Queen of Swords, this powerhouse, she's like, you know, she's almost sort of like, I want to say that she's like a kind of a sort of superhero, supervillain kind of thing. She does what she does because it's important to do it. She has these pearls of blood dripping from her as earrings. The base of her sword is this wonderful red, and there are tiny dots of blood and all this blooming, the roses, because roses always represent something of enormous beauty, but that can cut you or spike you with its thorns. So a really, really powerful visual image, and she's looking straight at you because she's saying, I see what you're doing and I will change it and you cannot stop me. And there's something about her, I always feel her sword is like ice. It's very, very sharp, razor sharp, almost scalpel-like in its ability to cut through. And her crown is incredibly spiky, and yet it's also golden ivy leaves. And that is now they're telling me that the relevance of the ivy leaves is that idea that I always talk about with the Empress card. An Empress will allow all life to grow, and an oak tree is a splendid thing, and so is ivy, but ivy can wind itself around an oak tree and pull it to the ground. It's like she has an ability to edit that an ordinary Empress doesn't always want to look at and deal with. And then looking backwards at all the editing, but with all this wonderful, actually it is oaks and acorns and mistletoe, sort of the winding of the Zen. Also there's wheat, ears, hearing, understanding, because it's almost like he's heard, he's now blocked off his ears because his sort of spidey senses are out in the world, just understanding all that's been edited by the Queen. And this is, remember, this is the balance of the divine masculine and divine feminine, for me, an aspect of your soul. Then we move on to the Page of Pentacles. Now, he again is looking towards the past. I think he's you start with the Page of Rods or Wands looking forwards. The Page of Cups is almost whimsically just head bowed, a little bit shy because emotions are new. And then you have looking forwards again with the swords. And then because they're all this notion of the inner workings of your soul, moving into this energy frequency is about when we go into the real world and how we feel in the real world. And so this page is looking backwards. He's looking back at all the things that he's thought about, all the aspects of his soul development, so that he can review it and know what to do. What's fascinating in this card is there's a huge amount of red, the earthing colour, and even the river that runs behind him is blood red, like magma. It's like he's trying to show you that to come into the real world is to fire yourself back up. So it's almost looking back to the very beginning of the divine spark of the first fire or wand frequency. And then we have the Page of Pentacles. Again, lots of red and lots of yellow, life force. These are very sunny colours that are put onto these cards. And this is like turning round and marching into the world. Now, the Page of Pentacles is the only page, Knight of Pentacles is the only knight who moves slowly with understanding and conviction. He's not gung-ho, he doesn't rush into things. Everything's at a very slow, even pace because he's reviewed all the internal workings that he's gone through and he's turning around. He's got this wonderful shield. He's shielded with the magic of the pentacle. He has his lance and we have this wonderful sun. We're talking about moving forwards into the world with a sense of, you know, real clarity. He's got tied around his right shoulder, he's earthed, and he holds his lance, the thing that he can pierce into things, with his left hand. He's protected with his right. So it's really about the direction of things. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles is... So I'm kind of trying to show you how wands face on, looking backwards, face on, looking forwards. They're all different ways in which we need to look at and interpret the cards. There's a beautiful protective energy. She has a kind of development of the crown of the Queen of Swords. But now it's less individual spikes. It's like the golden crown chakra is now all alight for this Queen of Pentacles. She's incredibly protective energy, and she has she has the autumn colours that were there in the early Swords editing that were not there in this wonderful green oak leaf pattern that's going on here. Whereas in hers, she has this notion of maturity. She's reached this level past that sort of summer growing flowers. And there's an incredible calm about her, but also what I want to say, there's a very interesting thing here. There's a tiny dot in the nape of her neck, as if there's this diamond-like clarity of communication in order to make the editing take place. Now in this has got this kind of maturity of silence. She doesn't need to speak. She's wrapped. She's almost like in a wimple that we associate with the nuns. And we've got new seeds. She holds the new seeds of future generations. So she plants and she nurtures new life in the physical. And then we end with the king. Now, it's interesting again. The first king reviews everything that's gone on from the beginning of the divine spark. The second king, very much like the page, they're not looking totally forwards or backwards, but there's something just slightly diagonal, as if they're looking more at a sense of the wholeness of things around the emotions. This king looks back to review, and the final king is the only one who faces forwards. And this is to be Zen in the real world, to have a balance of the masculine and the feminine. And again, now we've returned to this notion of harvest, the point at which the grapes are ready to be used to create something else. And again, it's that sense of the purple being there. He also wears two horns. There's something a little bit sort of Celtic Viking. I know Vikings didn't wear horned hats. I know that that's something that was put in with Wagner's Ring Cycle. But it is that sense of, he's everything. This card represents the sort of pinnacle of balance that we have within our soul journey. And this is also the card of the shaman teacher who can bring knowledge to others. But it's got this wonderful greenness because it's the connection to the real world. So, that's just the Morgan Greer. And I'm assuming that possibly the best the best way to go forwards with this is to just take each section, and this is going to take ages. That's why I brought a glass of water with me. We need to look at how the different cards that we have, and I just need to put them all down because I feel like I need to look at the sort of ordering of them to see how we focus on the story that each different page wishes to tell us. So I'm just going to review. I think we'll have that one next, that one, Okay, so remember this one, this guy looking forwards, holding the divine rod, the magic wand of power and fire. And in the wonderful Lightseer's Tarot, we have a female figure, and she is divinely inspired, and there's an energy of absolute pure excitement. She's throwing her wand into the air. You've got this swirling around energy as if there's great speed and great haste compared to this very static card. She's just in celebration. And you can kind of look at certain things like she's got life force, she's got the fire around her. She's wearing yellow, she's got a jacket, the jacket's peeling open, she's throwing herself into the world, and she's skipping and dancing, ready to communicate, because of the blue throat chakra, the energy into the world. Then we have, in the Muse Tarot, we have the page of inspiration. And they're called inspiration because they're the idea of being inspired by thoughts. This is a card that, when I first got it, it became very difficult to read. It has so many very odd images to it. You have a kind of notion of, because she's wearing black, it's that sense that the divine spark is all about the energy of thought. And so her hair and this wonderful iridescent cloud above. Iridescent clouds are amazing. I have seen one when doing a sound healing with a friend. It appeared in the sky. They're incredibly beautiful. But inside the iridescent cloud is so much movement and colour. It's like an amalgamation of a primordial energy frequency of all your chakra frequencies. And it's being dropped in by a dotted line, as if it's just waiting to be connected with. It sits above us, waiting for us to connect with it. There's also two cats, and the cats have little tiny halos around their head. And they sit either side as very much protective animals. And there's a very arid landscape. And it's the pink at the bottom is always talking about that sort of partly higher heart, Venus energy, but there is very much also within the card a sense of energy wings, the Jupiter energy. It's like there's a vast arid landscape out there of heat, searing heat, but it's above is this wonderful iridescent cloud of endless possibilities. And it's about listening, because the hair seems to connect to the ears. It's as if the notion of creative thinking is waiting to be fed into you and to colour the first aspect of your soul. Then in the Good Tarot we have this wonderful page of fire. There's fireworks, there's planetary explosions, there's this incredible girl who seems to, I always think she's got like a crab arm. Something about Cancer frequency energy, the crab, and that notion of fourth house, of home. It's about the divine spark within all of us, the life force that begins, being our sacred sanctum. It's the birthing of something new. And below in this card, at the very bottom, you have a white tiger. And for me, the white tiger very much represents High Priestess energy. And you've got this sense of the moon behind. And in the distance, there's a kind of city forming in shapes, and there's a small butterfly. It's like fire, life force, birthing, creative thinking is the very thing that transforms all life, and it's birthing. There is something about, if you look at this iridescent cloud, you see that she's completely clothed in all of these different colours all over her. She has all the different frequencies. There's very much fire, but there's something about her being the first movement from within the void. Very magician energy, card number 1, raw masculine. And yet it's this, there's a sort of a cheeky knowing in this page's face, and again, what I like is that all three of these are very feminine energies, and I feel the pages are feminine energy for me. Then we have in the Afro-Brazilian, we have, let's hold it there, we have this incredible, wonderful energy of fire creating smoke and smudging and cleansing the environment in which you live. And there's something so beautiful. It's a reference back to the kind of straw element of dried, dehydrated, the grass skirting, the veil over the face, the hand hiding. It's like the very beginning before motion. And yet within this card, these pictures behind always talk to me about a kind of understanding of ancestral energy within you, that these many different inspired stories are somehow hidden within your DNA, and it's like you visit different photos of different aspects of ancestors' lives. When you cleanse yourself, each time you develop or cleanse or deal with or face some kind of shadow, you get a new picture to work on next. And then we have, I love this one, the Princess of Wands in the off. I need to show you a jump ahead slightly. In the Kim Kran's Wild Unknown Tarot deck, the Magician card, and remember we've already had that sense of the Magician. The Magician is a cheetah, and I can't help but feel that we'll get to her eventually, but she has this cheetah energy held under control, and that's a very important frequency. Now, I think of this one as being the birthing of the Master Manifester or the Mistress Manifester. The card has enormous flame, and here she has tiger, fiery tiger. It's like connecting with the divine creativity of the High Priestess, and she's burning the roses that you see in this card on this little temple. Again, that idea of fire being used to burn and cleanse. But this wonderful princess, she has her sunflower wand, which connects in with this card, and she's taking this tiger and she's flinging the tiger into the air to bring forth. It's like wishing to manifest. It's like the very birth of life being thrown into the cosmos, almost like a kind of a trumpeting fanfare to say that you're here. This is going to be long, people. So let's move on to I think we're going to go pages. Let's go pages, then knights, then queens, then kings, I think. I was just going to go through each suit, but something's just saying to me do it the other way around. So remember this one. Now I need to pop these down and work out an order for them. Okay, so we have this page who whimsically isn't quite ready but's looking down at the magic of the cup. He doesn't touch the cup. The cup is on a table in front of him. It's almost like he's so immature, he doesn't understand emotions. It's very much that programming that we have from baby into childhood. You know, the idea is when we're born, we only have our root chakra working, the red, and we do have here this wonderful red colour, because our root chakra is a very selfish chakra. It just needs feeding and loving. And so a baby only has... That was exciting. That made me jump. I'm just going to leave it down. So, that's put all the energy through me. That was like birthing something. So, you have just the root chakra going. And when you reach 2 or 3, that's when we begin to get that sense of emotions, the seat of our soul. The sacral chakra comes online. And so we get this new emotional language. And that's really what the page or the princess, the seed of emotions is all about. So in the Good Tarot, we have this wonderful small child emerging as she's half mermaid, but she's floating on top of the water, and it's just the energy of the page of water, the energy of lotus flowers opening, water lilies opening on the surface. It's like the birthing of a new language that comes through in this card. And there's something very innocent and delicate about this card. If you look at her, you see how her tail is just lifting her above the water, but there's a sense of the mist as well rising all around her. So that ties in very well. Sorry, the energy of that falling is still racing through me. I hope it hasn't broken. So the Princess of Cups in the Thoth deck always comes across as a new emotional language for me. And now I'm going to have to try and explain why it is, because it is just a frequency that rides out of the card. She holds a shell and it's being opened and there's a turtle emerging from it. This sense of the water lily lotus that's opening is now floating high above her, and her dress is almost like aspects of a shell. She has fish. She also is connected through the goose maybe above her head. And she's got these wonderful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's got these wonderful hexagons. And I want to say that they're kind of Saturn Ops energy frequency. And there's, I think, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, 11 is the master number of the Earth grid. And so she's bringing a new emotional language into the world. She's birthing new emotions. Then we have in the Afro-Brazilian, I love this one. It's so beautiful. It's almost like once you've got the fire, the light, remember that fire is also light, sunlight, and it's when there's moisture in the air and light passes through the moisture, you get a rainbow. And so it's kind of like fire and water combined. And this character is bringing all that energy down into the seat of the emotions, the sacral, pulling that energy down, bringing it, and has a wand. He holds the fire, and it's pushing that fire, driving that fire down into the seat of your soul. And behind there's this fiery sky, and then the wonderful waterfall cascading down, as if there's so many more emotions yet to unfold, that it's a struggle almost to bring this energy down. But it's also, you need to think about the purity of the white, because we have this white energy at the base of the rainbow. And then in the Muse Tarot, this is such a fascinating card. It's the Page of Emotions, and it's sort of underwater but not underwater, and this notion of the sacral, but having the sacral working, having the key to understanding your sacral will open an energy frequency of the heart, a connection between the two, and it's rooted. Also, the octopus that sort of is surrounding the belly is again, it's like this, we're part water. You know, humanity started supposedly in the water and came out onto land. Just as you have that sense of a land and water creature in the turtle, there's this wonderful octopus. For me, spiders and octopus, numbers of 8, often represent kind of keys. And the spiders are more a key that is specific. An octopus is like a kind of master key. Because an octopus can squeeze itself through any shape. It can morph itself into anything. So it's like having a master key that will open any lock. And it's so beautiful because inside the sun is shining on the heart. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 balanced energy of fish coming down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fish at the sacral with a giant angelfish, and they're all of the fish, all 12 of them, are heading into the soul. And in the base of the image just here, you see a whole little tiny world. It's like having your beginnings of emotions is the key to unlocking your energy in the world. And then the Page of Cups in the Light Seers Tarot is again a really interesting thing, but this is about kind of, it's got very many complex layers in this card. You have a guy sitting there. His legs are not seen, and there's legs up here. Are they his legs or are they someone else's legs? Are they a new idea? Are they a truth or are they a lie? Because there's a pigs will fly and there's an empty bowl. And yet somehow behind, just here, there's 2 hands in the sea clasping a heart. It's not very well in focus, I'm sorry. And he's all dressed in blue and his hair is flying upwards towards the new notion, and there are moons and stars all around and swirls and wishes. There's a real sense of being inspired by emotions in that one. So that's the Page of Emotions. Let's go to the Page of Swords. Let's pop them down. Let's show you that one while I'm having a quick look at the order that I'd like to put them in, because these ones, they have some really beautiful energies. So I want to put that one there. So this guy and the fallen, broken column, you get this sense of the warrior, but very calm warrior. In this one, there's a kind of unashamed, like an antagonistic frequency to this one, but there's a sense of hidden kind of, he's not showing you his face. I love in these cards that we have these curtains. These represent to me the veil, the moon veil, the esoteric, the galactic center of the universe, and the things that come through. And the position of this guy, he's got his hand out and he's saying, come on, bring it on, I'm ready, I've got my sword, I'm ready to edit. And there's a wonderful sense of width. He's really rooted in the ground, and he's ready to kind of engage, but there's a stillness. There's no rush, but it's ready. There's something offensive rather than defensive. There's a sense of the stillness being a defensive energy, but one wrong move and this one's in there. So this brings a great sort of sense of a need, a waiting and a waiting to understand the emotion of what you need to edit. And then we have the Princess of Swords. I love this card. So for me, this card represents Ninlil, who's a Babylonian Sumerian goddess. And the energy that I get from this card is understanding how to bring in the difference between heaven and earth and find your place. And she is in action. She's not waiting. She's connected to a world of smoky fire. She's burning off frequencies. So it's about that aspect of your soul where you're creating new, I want to say there's a sense of kind of fans, origami, spinning energies, changing frequencies. She's got this enormous power within her. And there's all this wonderful zigzagging and swirling, and there's almost a sense that to edit, because if you look here, there's these kind of energies that swirl around, that you sense that there's a kind of heart chakra shape that's taking place that's very reminiscent of, where's she gone? Of this heart. A very happy energy. This is a very happy, comfortable energy, knowing your own space in which to work with the editing of things in your life. Now, this Page of Swords in the Light Seers always comes to me as pre-incarnation contracts. She has signed pre-incarnation contract. She's tiptoeing across the sword. It's like our journey through life is dangerously fraught with wounds that can come about. But the point of this card is saying that we signed up to this. The book has magic pouring from it. There's the light bulbs, the inspiration, the thoughts, the understanding that you can walk through life unscathed if you do it fearlessly, if you engage in a need to edit things within your life. And then in the Light Seers, there's a similar energy of pre-incarnation contract, but this is about the contracts that you sign that involve others. This is the contract that you sign that involves you. This is the contract that you sign with other people. And it's putting on the glasses. There's she is the Hierophantrix image in this deck. You can see the figure sitting on the rock with the hood on. If you look very closely at the card, she has these same white glasses on. And all around her, there are figures in black dancing. It's like saying your energy is the soft, loving, healing, clarifying frequency that needs to be brought to others' darkness. It's like you are the light that shows people the way in how to work on editing their own lives. And then the Page of Air is just this wonderful, angelic, rising. It's like sort of saying that you've worked. It's not that you've worked. It's the natural thing for you to just take flight and move forwards. This is very, more than any, this one represents like the Ace of Swords. It's like this frequency cannot be denied. When this card turns up, you cannot fail to remove something. And it's to do it, I don't want to say innocently, and I don't want to say unknowingly, but inevitably. It's like an inevitability that you must rise up. You must not be held down. You must rise and bring changes to your life. So that's that page. And now we're going on to the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, go on. I was nearly going to say let's just leave the whole of the Pentacles to the end, because they're outer work. I think we will. You know, that might be a bad idea. No. Let's do them. So, remember this chap? So, So I'm going to begin with the Afro-Brazilian here. Here we have an altar, a table. On it is a tray. The trays often in this deck represent the real world. And there are 2 candles and they're lit. I always find that in this deck, these represent different aspects of the spirit world, of things that float around us, that get caught in our consciousness that we have to deal with. And there's something about this card that always suggests a kind of despair, an initial despair at the kind of emptiness of the real world somehow. Like there's a haunting energy hidden behind this card, and she has this wonderful metal sword, spiked. I don't know the name of it. I've tried looking up, I can't find it. If anyone knows what that's called, I would love to know and to read more about it. But there is this sense of bare boards. It's like the bare world. There's this real sense of bareness, and yet you've decorated the table in life force energy. You've got the divine spark. It's lit. It's almost like going out into the world with no emotional understanding whatsoever, and they're being slightly horrified. She's not comfortable. She's ready. She's all dressed for this. She's got the most beautiful warrior-esque kind of bands, you know, a bit sort of like the ones that the gauntlets that Wonder Woman would wear. I love Wonder Woman. And but there is, I also want to say that she's almost calling out. There's something about the frequency of voice in this card, almost Galdir magic, almost you need to shout the magic into place to fill the bowl. And then we have the Page of Earth. It's such a beautiful little card, this one. It's such a charming, gorgeous card. And he carries 2 wands. One's like a scepter to the world, and the other seems to be like a wand of fire, and he has air wings. He's a little sprite. He stands in the world. This is a card of absolute innocence and playfulness, and he has the growth that connects him to spirit. But this is a card, there's wonderful sort of, I think they're called saxifraga, the very tiny plants that grow on mountainsides, and there's fir trees in the distance. And he's kind of waiting. He's waiting for you to join him in the earth and to go play. He wants you to remember childhood. It's that reading I did yesterday. But it is also Santana will always call in the card to remember, the remembrance card. But it's a card of innocence, of remembering our innocence when we first encounter the world. Then we have the Page of Pentacles in the Lightseer's deck. This one with the orange trousers reminds me of the Sacral. The pentacle is very much a mandala, and running from the edge of the mandala is a root that kind of wraps itself around and becomes the waistband on the costume. And I want to say that the important part of this, there's 2 important parts of this card. One is the black sort of shoulder and hood thing, which is talking about you're now closing off that energy. So when we go back to this page where she's only thoughts and her body. She's dressed totally in black because she's not part of the real world. This is trying to become part of the real world while not allowing what you've previously worked on to get in the way. And there's a second mandala on the ground in amongst the fir trees, and this figure, she isn't making contact with the ground. There's a very small root system just underneath her foot, like she's just beginning to plug in, but doesn't fully know how to express herself in the real world. Whereas this lady, she knows everything about how to plug in, and that's exactly what she's doing. She has elements of the birthing of the Queen of Discs in this deck with her wonderful curly horned image. She is plugging into the world. She is very, very fierce and powerful. She has a yin and a yang coin in her sort of mandala that's here. The trees around her are connected to each other. She's connected to everything. It's about plugging yourself into the oneness of the world, and to do it with a kind of fierceness. There's something very Valkyrie about this. She's got this wonderful sort of ermine coat that rolls all around her. And ermine are often called something like snow rats or snow ferrets, and because in somewhere like Macedonia they were referred to as the Armenian rats, that's where the name ermine comes from, but it's the winter coat. So there's something about connecting into the frozen world and bringing life and fire back. And then we have the page of materials. I always love this one. This is the mind merging card, but in terms of it being an aspect of our soul, it's our motion, our sense of how we merge into the world. You know, in this deck, the roses represent the pentacles. And this is so beautiful. Again, it refers back to the Queen in this deck with the roses. There are very few thorns. They're very, very tiny on this rose. And her entire dress is made up of endless, endless possibilities as you merge your mind and yourself with the natural world. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous card. That frequency of that painting is just beginning to calm down now. So let's move on to warriors. So let's pop them all down. So, this Knight of Rods has Salamander. Salamander's a fire. He also has the beginnings of growth on his rod. He also has a kind of flying dragon on his crown chakra, the fire of the fire dragon. He's completely helmeted and ready. He's lifted his visor to see where he's going, and he's absolutely covered in, I want to say, the sense of dragon scales. There's a wonderful fiery dragon energy all over this card. And we have next to that the Messenger of Fire. Now this is where in the Good Tarot you get a little sense of confusion, because we talk about pages as being messages and news that come in towards us, but this is a Messenger of Fire, and this is like being inspired but not understanding the inspiration yet that comes to you as an aspect of your soul. This card will represent a completely different thing when we look at the tarot later, but in terms of the aspects of how it is in your soul, this is sort of magic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's the key, the candles, there are 8 candles. It's the idea of having the key to an inspired thought, but having a sense of still unsure how to bring that energy into play, because it's merely at the moment a thought inside your head that hasn't been endowed with emotions, hasn't been edited, and hasn't been brought into the real world. So it's a very early energy of inspiration. Now, in the Lightseers Tarot, it's gorgeous. This card blends blends itself in with the Four of Wands, which is the card of healing and happy homes. But this is also a card that talks about celebrating yourself, celebrating the freedom that understanding the fire within your belly will bring you. They're also saying this has got an energy of biome now, but I don't want to go into that energy at the moment, but they're just reminding me of that. So this is there's a sense of the astral. There's a sense of connecting to yourself in dreams. The horse always represents freedom, but it's freedom from your shadows by dealing with your shadows. The fieriness, the black horse, and the very tips of this horse almost feel like they're waiting, these shadows, these distant shadows, to just begin to transform into a white horse, giving you that notion of the different extremities of dark and light, yin and yang, and marching forwards, but also playing your own tune, beating your own rhythm, you know, celebrate you. And then we have, actually I'm going to put them around the other way. So I wasn't going to, but the Knight of Inspiration is the changing horse. It's like a palomino. It's got white with black spots and some sort of chestnutty colours, but it's got this wonderful fiery mane and a firework going off. This is a real kind of like epiphanal, explosive card that sets you on a pathway to freedom. It's bringing wonderful new energy, and it's across an arid landscape, and the hooves on this card are very golden and fiery. It's kind of talking like you walk your walk because you understand something about yourself. This, you know, this really is this energy of this knight here. It's very much about understanding yourself. Here we have the fire dragon that this card represented being something that we battle. And it's interesting that we need our shadow warrior, ourselves as a shadow warrior. So you've had the black horse that's just beginning to tinge white, the horse running forwards, and now the horse is facing the fiery dragon with our own shadow, we are our own shadows, we create our own shadows. But here in this deck, in the Afro-Brazilian, the shadows are the things that work to create change, to defeat the fires that want to singe us. We have to face the shadows. So that's an image of our soul doing the work, but working with our shadows. And then we have the Prince of Wands. This one is so fiery, so powerful. This one's an explosion of inner fires. This is volcanic. This is magma. This is almost, it's very Leo energy with the fierce fire lion at the front pulling the chariot. There's a wonderful energy on the heart of fiery passion and an explosion. And then there's a kind of elongated, winged kind of scarab beetle, but it has a human face. It's like an energy of the higher self coming down and protecting the person. and there's the wand in this is got a little kind of stalk bird head, again with flames. But the interesting part is the reins are not being held. It's almost like this is cosmically driven by spirit. This is like a moment where your soul can't do anything but burst out. So that's the Knights of Wands, fires. Let's look at the Warriors of Water and Cups. So I'll pop them down. I'll bring this up for you to look at while I work out what we want to do with this one. Yeah, this is tricky. So, as I said before, this knight's all scaled up with his water dragon scales across his chest. He has the intelligence above, but this is now emotional intelligence. And again, visor up, clarity. There's a wonderful lush landscape. This is a guy moving forwards. This is, you know, he's all blue, but he's tinged with the grounding and the natural world around him. And then we have the Messenger of Water. So again, this is a messenger card, but it is a knight card. This is a massive frequency from the other side of the cosmos. And she's speaking to the seahorse. So it's a horse again, because it is a night energy. But this is about how tiny we are in our current understanding of emotions compared to the vastness of the emotional landscape that exists in totality out there. This is kind of almost like a messenger from High Priestess energy. It's a messenger from behind the veil through the emotional language, bringing a secret to you, whispering, giving you something, and the seahorse is energized. I also want you to look down here, whoops, down this side, at this shell. This fractal energy turns up in this card as well. Fractal shells are showing you how, just here behind the horse, we're going to come back to that card, but I just wanted to draw your attention to that. There's a sense of pearls of wisdom around this, but the growing, the different size of emotions, as emotions grow, they become bigger, but they're still based in the same language of love. That's the fractal. Every emotion at its very base sort of keynote is always about love, but it's tinged with lots of other different frequencies. And there's something about the purpleness of the seahorse and the fact that the seahorse is, it's the males that carry the babies in a pouch. It's that sense of a masculine energy, a teenage masculine energy, but somehow because it's emotional, it has a little bit more of the emotional feminine already within the energy of this card. Then we have the Prince of Cups. This has got to do with the rising of Kundalini energy. But I always get this sense that it's almost like sitting on a coffin as well, and there's an eagle on the crown and an eagle type bird figure diving, bringing you down deep into the emotions to go on a really deep emotional ride into the Akashic records, is the energy that this card gives me in terms of our soul journey. He's not looking up, he's looking down at his own life force in his cup. It's almost like a great big sort of champagne bucket, but there's also because I want to say that idea of celebrating emotions is very much the energy of this card. And there's something, I want to say there's something very metallic about this, like being celebrating emotions in such a way that you'll come out of the emotional pool and the water will run off you. It's not like the emotions will stick to this character. There's something about this character that's able to fly through. There's something very air energy about this. It's working with emotions in a different kind of way. And then we have another horse. So in the Afro-Brazilian, again, we're dealing with the triumph of the last night with the fire dragon. The water has defeated the fire dragon, and here the vessel, the cup, and it's almost an urn. So there is something about the death of the shadow is what brings around that celebration, because you know, that coffin energy that he's seated on is about kind of sitting on your shadows because you've dealt with them, and that allows you to plunge yet again into the Akashic records to do things. And here the horse has become, it's almost like before it was a white horse with the black shadow, and now we're totally black. The shadows have been I'm not saying that the shadows have been oppressed. The shadows have been integrated, and now we have the vessel of the cups being held aloft. It's the achievement of understanding emotions in that one. So that's a kind of teenage energy that's beginning to learn about emotions. Then we have the Knight of Emotions, this wonderful white horse with the star across the piece of bridal wear, and the fractal frequency and splashing, and this time it's black hooves. It's like it's moving on from this. It's what you become when you have faced a shadow and you're building. This is almost, sorry, that side. This is almost like the scoreboard of every time you do another piece of shadow work, your emotions grow, your ability to deal with things in life grow. So, and it's demi-rampant, meaning it's standing on its hind legs with its front legs in the air. And it's playful. This is really, really playful. All of that kind of splashing in water is very much children in puddles, which is something that we don't do as teenagers. You know, very often we only do that when we're very young children, and there is something about a kind of playfulness. Now, in the Knight of Cups, because traditionally this card will always talk about, in many tarot readings, if we're not looking at it as being an aspect of our soul, it will be about a kind of a knight coming in, like a love interest coming in. And this is what I mean about how at the moment we're not looking at that, which makes this card here slightly more tricky to read, because we have a horse in the background and we have this hot guy with a bad hat, and he's got little mercurial shoes, boots on, and he's carrying roses. So he's very much trying to represent that frequency of some kind of new suitor coming in. But when you look at this as an energy of us, it's kind of like talking about the projection of ourselves. When we approach others with our emotions, are we being mercurial or are we being sincere? Because you can never work out when this card comes out in a deck whether he intends to be a good boy or a bad boy. So it is that frequency of the cruelty with which we can often act when we believe we're acting nobly in terms of how we offer our emotions and love to others. Because just down below there's a bowl and there's love letters and there's kind of like fruits and picnic basket. It's kind of like, do you approach a person in true honesty, or are you still projecting some shadowy aspect of yourself as you move forwards? So it's a card of questioning yourself. So that's Knight of Cups. Knight of Swords, edit time. These are hard. I'll keep this one up for you with the fiery guy and the chimney and his hot sword. Oh, this is difficult. I'm going to begin with the off. I haven't actually put them in the right order because it's. I think I need to explain this one and then the next one will come. This one's interesting. This is Enlil. This is a Sumerian god. He's the god, Babylonian god, who separated heaven and earth to make space for humanity. So it's like this is like a battle within ourselves, an emotional battle. He holds a sword and a sickle. Sickle is death, is that representation, and he's battling personal demons in this card. And the demons have a kind of sense of pentacles swinging around, changing, very much like there's an endless frequency of the Two of Pentacles all the way down here, plus this big Two of Pentacles behind his head, and then this notion of the pyramid shape, a space of healing being inverted as well. So this is I want to say this is a card of confused frequency. This is a card where you're still in the process of battling demons. That's how it's coming across. Battling demons. So we have to go with this one. Again, it's that energy of battling the dragon, the fire dragon, bringing it into, knocking it into space. This is a grey horse, and there's a wonderful cloak coming off. And although the figure is draped in blacks and greys with this blue cloak and grey cloak, there is a real sense of being more in your own frequency about this card, understanding why you're doing what you're doing. This knight is going in fast. I want to say there's a small energy that's not quite, but it's being told to me that it's a bat in the background, a transformative frequency. It's almost not connecting properly with yourself. It's going in too fast, because he's slightly separated from the horse, and it's all, there's no saddle. It's not like you were prepared. You're almost going in too fast. But again, it is that energy of really being furiously swinging a sword almost. And then we have the Knight of Swords, and this guy has arrows, because arrows can also represent swords, because they're an energy that flies through the air. This guy's running. And what I love about this card is it's like it's a simple decision at the end of the day. The spirit is flying, there's a motorbike in the distance, but the interesting part is to look at the foot, the shoe, the sole of the shoe, the sole of us. In this card has a whole series of ones and zeros, binary. It's a simple thing. The editing is a simple thing. Edit or don't edit. You have to make your mind up about what you require and what you don't require as you move forwards. And that's very much the frequency of the motorcycle. Do you get on the motorcycle? Do you run to that motorcycle and use something mechanical, some kind of aid to keep you traveling and to allow you to travel faster than you should be traveling? Or do you keep running with spirit? Then we have the Messenger of Air. She's really very much about thoughts. She comes across as incredibly calm. There's something very slow about her. As an aspect of the soul, I want to say, I'm not reading this card in terms of any other version of itself, if it came in a reading, where she might be a spirit bringing a message. This is a character overwhelmed by the thoughts. there is a wonderful calm, but there's also an energy of being trapped, being caught by your thoughts, having not clarified your thoughts. There's all the feathers are slightly entangled and woven around each other, and there's a vulnerability of her neck, like she wants to explain something, but this is bare and waiting to almost be attacked. There's a small kind of, it always looks like a kind of fallen feather, that's just, it's like you're not moving quick enough to deal with things. You're caught up in your own thoughts with this one. And then we have the Knight of Voices. This is like arriving at the finishing line of something. It's like it's over again here we have the wonderful Pegasus energy. This is the flying horse. It's flown out from a portal in the cosmos because it's reached a clarity. The dark, fogged mountains that were holding you back, you're now far above them. And there's a series of kind of Nepalese flags almost at the bottom as a kind of celebratory, prayerful-like finishing line. So having worked out what it is you desire and need to move forwards. So that's that one. Knight of Pentacles moving into the real world. Sorry, and again, these ones are quite... So we had forward-looking, slow-moving knight, and actually, in terms of the slow-moving, this Knight of Pentacles in the Afro-Brazilian never feels slow. This one still feels like it just can't let go of a battle. It's like it just can't resist. It's like it's not replenishing its energy. It's like repeating a pattern. Keep returning. There's the shield here, and the jousting spear feels very much like a wooden spear, jousting rod. And the horse is a kind of greyish chestnut colour with a white searing eye, and you almost can't see the figure of the knight. It's like this is an energy of being trapped, caught, unwilling to engage properly in the real world. Still, there's a sense of anger hidden behind this card, and fire, and a sense of wishing to punish others for things, which is not a good frequency. Then we have the Knight of Pentacles in the Light Seers. This one is about the slow movement. We have the knight with the wonderful, beautiful, I want to say, you know, there's a sense of Roma's, the wonderful kind of embroidered, beautiful saddle. There's a real pride in the horse in this. But there's what I love about this card is not just the falling pentacles, letting go, releasing, but the idea that you just get off the horse and walk. It's got an echo of the Knight of Swords not accepting the motorbike, so not needing something else. He's barefoot. He's in the real world, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Earth frequency grid, planting, removing all those old energies, and you only take with you the one that matters. Actually, there's a 12th one in his hand, but it's like this guy's got a wonderful sense of calm about him, and the real sense of movement, but at a really sensible pace. And then we have the Knight of Materials in the, again, in the Muse deck. I absolutely love this one. Look at all the wonderful floral, because flowers are the important thing, but the really wonderful thing is this huge succulent mandala at the top unfolding. This is freedom. This is, you know, running with your shadows, because your shadows are always part of something that light you up and make you the wonderful person that you are. And there's grass, wonderful rich grass growing all around, and this horse, just the tilt of this horse's head is so beautiful, and so in touch with everything. I really love this one. That wonderful sky, that sort of sense of red sky at night, shepherd's delight, running into a beautiful new day. You know, there's tiny little points all over the succulent that feel as though they're spiky, sharp energy, but there's something beautifully soft about them, and nourished, full of water, full of emotions, because succulents are very water rich plants. It's a really lovely, with gorgeous chestnut coloured hooves. And then we have the Prince of Discs. This Prince of Discs is layered with so many different images, holding a globe. I wonder, this card's almost about being comfortable in your own skin. It's being pulled by a bull, by Taurian energy. And there's these pearls of wisdom stacked behind this hugely deep, dark, black metal throne chariot, and the idea of being in alignment. There's also a kind of flying bull across the top of the head, very Taurian energy, very much Venus. Being in love with the natural world is taking place in this card, holding a globe, and the globe is almost see-through and empty. It's knowing your space in the world. He closes his eyes in meditation. There's such an energy of peace about this card, but power. I mean, immense and incredible power. You can't shift this bugger, I'm telling you. And then we have, there's something so sarky about this woman, Messenger of Earth. I do find her a very tricky energy to read. I mean, if she came up now, I think what you have to look at here is the number of Triskelion, 3 coils frequency that exists within her. She's very much of the earth. She's very much... there is a kind of deer-like, stag-like frequency. And there's something emerging. There's something very natural. There's no sense of flamboyancy about this night. This night's very, very grounded, very, very earthy, salt of the earth kind of frequency. I mean, it doesn't usually come across as that, because we read it as a different frequency usually, but applying it as an element of our soul, as a warrior element of our soul, she's very, very confident. But there's a wicked sense of humour as well hidden within this, bringing laughter into the world, bringing a unique individual feeling. So that's that. How long have I been chatting for? I'm already on 1 hour 33. And we've got to get through the kings and the queens. I'm going to have another sip of water. I was hoping this would be 90 minutes. Not 3 hours. So, Queen of Rods. Got water all over my moustache. Queen of Rods, Queen of Fire, Queen of Inspiration. I'm going to begin with going to begin with the Afro-Brazilian. This is a very odd Queen of Wands. I've always found it very difficult. It's almost like there's something fearful about this card. It's like you're being inspired by something and it scares you. It's like a fear of change, and that's not the usual frequency of the Queen of Rods. She's a very confident. I don't want to say fiery. I know she is representing fire, but she's that's not the usual energy. To me, this is someone who's out of place. There's something very uncomfortable. It's like this energy can't cope with the lack of emotions. It's like there's anger around and there's air around. There's like something's trying to edit her and she's almost trying to defend herself. There's something very defensive about the thoughts of this queen. I'm trying to go faster because I've gone too slow. The Queen of Fire in the Good Tarot is such a noble character. She has such knowing. There's a kind of mirrored portal behind, and she comes through with her heart chakra and a wonderful mandala in the middle. She holds a candle, but the candle's not quite in her hands. It's almost like there's an illusion. There's something about her that presents itself as a very ethereal thoughts, almost untouchable, almost distant, not engaging fully. And again, she's got that cover to her neck that the Queen of Pentacles has in this card. She's got that sense of not willing to engage in, there's something secretive, not willing to communicate, but having such fire and passion behind her. And then we have this beautiful Queen of Inspiration. I like this one. Hang on, no, I think I'm going to go another way because I just noticed something that I need to tie in. So, the Queen of Wands in the Light Seers, she is the candle. And around her are 1,000 candles, and she's got her cat, and that's referring to the comfort of her own self, a kind of the energy of being a little bit witchy, having an animal familiar with her. She holds her wand in the air. She's so utterly excited. Her earrings are the element of fire in the triangle form. She's got this wonderful kind of pair of huge baggy orange sacral energy trousers on. Her toenails are painted purple, so she's earthed her third eye completely into the ground here. And she has Greek key work around her skirt, trouser, culotte type of image. But this is really inspired. This is really joyful, and it's sharing her light with others. And then we have the Queen of Inspiration from the Muse Tarot, and here we have pyramids, and we have the most beautiful woman. Her third eye is connected. She's totally inspired, but this is something about being inspired in dreams as well, connected to the astral. The life force of the sun is right behind her. Her hands are also connected to the astral, like there's an ability to use the hands to craft, because this is also that energy of the fire, the heat, the healing of the hands. And this woman, there's a beautiful soft pink desert, And sitting on a rock right at the front is a cheetah. And that again represents that raw masculine frequency. She is so at peace with her own emotional femininity, divine femininity, raw femininity, that she doesn't notice the relevance of the raw masculine. There's something very telekinetic going on in this card. There's a sense of real cosmic magic hidden within that one. And then the Queen of Wands in the Thoth, she does completely fascinate me. Oh, there's something weird just gone in with the frequency in the air. Oh, it's doing weird things in my ears. So she holds power over the raw masculine. This Queen of Wands is fiery majesty. Everything about her is like, she is like Pachamama energy frequency. She has, again, the Egyptian eagle above her head. There's something a little bit Statue of Liberty. Her own fire gives her freedoms. And she has a pine cone wand, sort of like hidden fractal repeating frequencies within her. But it's the important part of this is how she controls the raw masculine. So that fiery burn, that sense of wanting to savage something, she has complete control over him. So that's Queen of Fire. Queens of Cups. So you get to look at that while I pull these out. I'm actually going to begin with the Thoth because I find this one interesting because it's almost like she's not there. It's almost like the emotions are not there. There's a sense of being not being forthcoming with your emotional language, being hidden. She has many lotus flowers around her, and her face is hidden really tiny in this area at the back. But you don't notice her instantly. You notice the energy of the emotions rather than the physicality of the person being present. She sits mirrored in the water, but in the water there's almost more clarity in the water than in the actual space of the world above. And she's got her hand on a stalk. And the stork is walking on the water, and the stork is in reflection, and yet there's something about the reflection of the legs that's different in reflection to in reality. This is almost a sense of not revealing your emotions in their truth. It is a queen of emotions, but there's something distorted about the energy of this queen. So then I guess we look at the Queen of Water. This is just powerful, huge, blissful peace with your own emotions. But I want to say that she represents emotions, being at one with your own emotions, but not being at one with how you share your emotions with another. There's something about her that's very solitary, very meditative. She has shells all around her. There are bubbles emerging. There's incredible beauty about this card. But when you look at it as an aspect of the soul, she hasn't yet learned to externalize emotions. They're all internalized. Then in the Afro-Brazilian, we have... she's like a goddess of the waves. The Akashic records. She's collecting emotion, she's sifting emotion, she's reading emotion, she's working on the emotions of other people. And there's a rock ahead of her, but she already looks as though she knows the direction to pass the rock, and she doesn't even need to see to do this. She's plugged in to the Akashic sea of emotions, is the energy of this queen. The Queen of Cups in the Light Seers is just beautiful. This is, again, very much meditative energy. But this is, I want to say she's very ordinary in many ways. She's not coming across as some kind of monarch that's being crowned. She holds her hands up, almost surrendering to all the divine emotions of love. There's light swirling around her, and her crown above her head is just an ethereal water crown. And she's semi-submerged in water. She's seated on a very ordinary wooden chair that just peeps out at the base of the water, and there's a small fish swimming around her. And she has the symbol of water across her head with some little sort of jewels. But there's something very matter of fact about this energy. There's a real mothering, comforting energy to these emotions, just to hold a field of love open. I want to say to the whole world, this is the difference between this one and this one, is that she doesn't see herself as special or royal in many ways. She sees herself as very ordinary, but as an emotional woman holding open a field of frequency for other people at all times. And then we have the hidden emotions, the emotions yet to emerge, the frequency of huge emotional power rising up from the Akashic records, from the oceans, and it's intuitive. It's got the sense of gourds and pomegranates and beautiful pink flowers and jellyfish and morphing shapes, and it's just she's amazing. But I want you to observe over the top that's really the soul. That's this person up here above is who you are in your soul. This is all that you've yet to tap into when that card comes up to represent a personal part of the journey. So now Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords. Yeah, So, we're going to begin with the Thoth, because she is the fiercest in many ways. Just because she's actually completely savaged off the head of the person that needs editing. And she sits high in the heavens on clouds, air frequency. This is the deed is done, but there's something about this energy frequency that feels a little bit I'm thinking of like kind of the energy of Elizabeth I and the notion of off with her head, that kind of joke that we always have in British history. But there's something about there's a kind of severity, there's a coldness about this card. And you know, sometimes with air energy and sword energy, when we're editing, you do have to have a sense of coldness to it. But there's a sense of emotionless about it, being very cut off as you cut off the head, but also being almost a false goddess frequency to this one. It's very interesting. And yet, there's a huge communicated message that's coming through in that card. The blue of the throat chakra slicing off the head. Again, with this one, there's a kind of, again, it's got blue and I always want to say this one is a frequency that's much more teenaged about the editing. She's diving in and swinging her sword and cutting through things, and she's not looking at what she's cutting. She's almost over editing would be the energy. You're doing too much to remove too much too quickly. There's speed and fury, whereas this one, the act is done. This one just almost can't seem to stop. And then you get the frequency of I was going to do them the other way around, but now they're telling me to pull it this way around. The raven rather than the blackbird, the Queen of Voices. This is about dealing with huge confusion of thoughts, but how you're working through it to bring yourself back to your true image, to kind of create from within the darkness of the ravens, you becoming the white raven. There's something old about this card as well. I always think of Louise, it'll come back to me, an old black and white movie star who was one of the first women to have a bob. And she had little tiny diamonds and jewels encrusted in the bob. And this is about transforming yourself. So these ones, they're about cutting at others and things around you. This one is about working and cutting and dealing with aspects of your own soul and the confusion of thought to transform yourself into a white raven. And white ravens for me represent magic and wonderful cosmic energies that flow in. And then the Queen of Swords in the Light Seers, she's one of the calmest, most wonderful Queen of Swords. Sitting below her on her stone table that she sits on, or altar, is a little cage with the bowl in, and the bowl represents, if you remember back to the Queen of Cups, this is when you're not holding that frequency open. She's protecting her bowl. It's looked after. She's understood. She's in a sense of great calm. She's put away her sword. It's back in its scabbard. And just in the distance we see a crow flying, and we have the energy of air on the flags. Well, on the blue flag. It's almost like she's able to speak again. She's been through the things. She's calm and she's happy and comfortable. She's dealt with so much. She feels at home with herself. There's something... You see, this one has an Amazonian energy to it, which this one also has, but this one has it for the wrong reasons. This one has it for the right reasons, because she understood to protect not just her own emotions, but other people's emotions. And then we have the Queen of Air. What does she represent in this deck? She represents just being... There's a maturity to this queen that there isn't in any other queen. She has the huge white owl with her. She has wisdom. She's seen everything, done everything. She's... there's a sense of beauty with a knowingness and a real sense of a kind of challenging humour. There's a sort of energy of did you not hear me the first time, almost? There's something a little bit kind of like, she's like, you know, don't mess with me. You know, I'm willing to be as charming as you like, but do not mess with me because I've got my bird of prey with me. You know? So that's the Queen of Swords. Queen of Pentacles. Wow. You see, it's interesting. I always get a bit disappointed at the fact that most early tarot cards have never had any ethnic faces in them. So I'm actually going to start with the Thoth, because she's the only one that isn't. All the others, look, I'm just going to hold them up. They're all ethnic women. I love it. It's gorgeous. So, where are we beginning? I guess that's nice. Okay, there's a really nice story in these ones as I move through. So, we've had the oaken, mature, protective frequency. Now we're on to this one. I absolutely love this one. Queen of Discs. She is such a powerful woman. She has slain the devil. Look, the goat's there that represents the devil. Who's got the biggest horns? She's got the biggest horns. So she's looking out into the past. Over her shoulder, the whole world is just black and white, three-dimensional pointlessness. And she's created this incredible new world all around her. She holds power over everything, and there's something, there's a real sense of, she's almost dripping in coins, you know. Her hat is a whole series of tiny coins. The armor that she wears is golden coins. She holds a big golden coin here. Her wand is almost a reminder of the wand that we had in the princess. There we go. We needed to bring her back in. This is what she became. The seed grew into something completely powerful and spectacular. This is a queen who needs no king. This is like an empress. This is really, really powerful within the world, and the devil looks a little bit befuddled by her power. It's such a strong energy, that one, and a very relaxed energy as well. Then we have this resplendent Queen of Earth with her. She's part deer, part ivy. And she has a beautiful white butterfly, and she's covered in little tiny white flowers. She's about an incredible, she most represents coming into the earth as a queen, having really worked and understood all the other energies of the queens that came before her. She's incredible. She also, the three of these are also very much talking about that kind of brown trunk-like energy of trees, the soil, you know, we need to think about the fact that soil is the thing full of nutrients that provides growth. There's something about her that brings nutrients to others. She's a really wonderful, wonderful card. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles in the Afro-Brazilian. She brings life force. She still, what I find odd about this is she still has an empty plate, but now she's kind of, I want to say that she's there's real magic to her. It's like she's mid fluid dance to bring about to pull down spirit and create something new within the earth. There's a real frequency of, she reminds me also of the star card with her yellow outfit. This is a healed woman. This is a woman that's been through things and she's healed herself and she's bringing new energy into the earth. And then we have the Queen of Materials. She has, they're kind of, the flowers above her, there's this wonderful sense of her hugeness in this portal. It's like she is the mandala. You know, she is the frequency that makes the world real. She creates the world around her from confusion. And there's a smaller version of her below showing that she has just grown up from what she was to what she has become, and she's so emotionally calm. That's what I love about her. And I love all these kind of strange, they do look a little bit like poppies, but they're not. They're I can't remember what they're called. Peonies. She has a peonid through the middle of the card. There's something, to me, this is something that had to be worked at. She had to work really hard to inherit her crown, because peonies are notoriously difficult to grow, and they can be really stubborn. And yet she's so unbelievably comfortable in her achievements. So it's a real queen of achievements. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles in the Light Seers. She's just bliss. I always think she's the most chilled, she's the most noble looking Queen of Pentacles. I absolutely adore her. She's got the element of peace. She's got the element of meditation. She's the queen of the world. She really, it's almost like she's making the entire world grow around her. I love her. And she's seated on a red cushion, you know? She's rooted, but being in the earth never feels hard or uncomfortable for her. It feels like a really soft energy. So that's the Queen. Look, we're nearly on Kings. Well, we are on Kings. What are we on now? 2 hours and 2 minutes. Let's see if I can get it down to 2.5 hours. So, King of Rods. Oh, fire. Oh, I want you to burn. So, Zen. We've got to keep reminding ourselves that this is a balance between divine masculine and divine feminine energies. So, what do we have here? This is a game where we start to get a little bit of confusion. Where do we go? See, that's a weird order that I've put them in. But anyway, let's begin with the Knight of Wands, who is the king. And he's in his golden fiery armour and he holds a wand of fire. His horse is demi-rampant. There's such strength to leap over everything. This is to be at some kind of point in your life where your balance is so much that you can conjure magnificent epiphanies from within the cosmos. Everything about him is digging into the past because he's reviewing all the divine sparks and thoughts that came before. And then we have, sorry, I'm still caught on that one. There's something missing that I'm not hearing. It might come back when I go through. So the King of Fire, I love this one as well. He's so wise and so old and so, he's almost like first thought. It's like being connected to something so ancient and so wise and so calm. It's like, I really want to say he's almost witnessed the Big Bang. It's almost like, you know, there's something holy and divine and spiritual. His face is covered in kind of wings across. His hands are closed over each other. There's no need for this kind of demi-rampant firing. It's just, there's something about being so deeply and anciently connected to the zenness of thoughts. And then the Muse of Inspiration, because in this deck the cards go the other way, and they always represent kind of mirrors. They always have two women that hold open space. This is a connection between the moon, the idea of you've got to walk through the fires to reach the moon's emotional language. This is the beginning of a new journey. Being zen with your thoughts is the beginning of a new journey towards emotions. There's a sense of being a phoenix in this card, rising from the ashes, taking this sort of dull grid-like world and bringing new inspiration to everything. And then we have my favourite card. Oh, he's so gorgeous. The thing is, I want to meet him. Him for real. Looking just like that. And I want him to have a pet lion. So this is salamander energy again, fire. This guy's not wearing a crown. This is that energy again of being much more, less royal, much more connected. So remember again, we're talking a balance between masculine, divine feminine, embodied in this guy. He's earthed. He's got his red shirt on with the salamander on. He wears a triangle, the element of fire. His wand is the thing that crowns him. And behind this lion that's behind him, for me, we often say, oh, maybe there's a Leo coming in, but it's not. We're talking about it being the ego. He's in command of his ego. He's casual about it. He's connected. He's so zen with his thoughts. He's so transformed that he just is gorgeous. So that's just to be completely at ease with your fires, your passions, your notions. And then we have this wonderful, this is almost like being in, having passed through this gateway, this is like almost being purified, godlike kind of balanced frequency of fire. The fires are now sort of white hot. The heat is even stronger, but it's in balance. It's completely calm. It's being able to me, this one has a sense of being connected to spirit, being able to see into other thoughts, other places, almost remote viewing energy coming from this card, and celebrating life, And there is a sense of, because of this kind of slightly papal crown hat, it's reminding me of the energy of the Dogon tribe in Mali. And I kind of want to say Mansa Musa, the world's richest man almost, from the 1300s, who had so much gold. He was just, his way of conquering somewhere was just go in and give everybody gold, and then they go, yeah, we like you. There's something about this, the Dogon connection to the first beings that created some series of caves, the Nomos that came down, that were supposedly Syrian, half fish, half human, that could live in the sea, could live in the land, and they had that's where the bishop's mitre comes from. It's a symbol of the hats that they used to wear that were shaped like a kind of shark's head turned upwards. So that's a really very purified, having been through all the fires. So cups, Zen of Cups. We have that king. Oh, you see, this is interesting, because I was looking earlier at this and thinking there's some really strange frequencies in amongst these decks for this. So I'm actually going to begin. We know of this one, but if we look at the King of Chalices, as it's called, the King of Cups in this deck, he has the lion that we just witnessed over the shoulder of the King of Rods, King of Wands. So there's the King of Wands with his ego dealt with. And then in this one here, we have the ego now seated in front. But do you know, the energy that I got from this card earlier when I was laying them out before I went for a swim was of a kind of narcissist, which is very interesting. This is a guy who is a king of emotions, but all of his emotions relate to himself. It's a selfish card. It's an energy of, I want to say, it's a balance between masculine and feminine, remember. He's meant to be in divineness, but somehow this one has separated it. And he's almost, he's got a really aggressive, sharp, hooked moon blade, which is almost like he's taken divine feminine wisdom and he's kind of carved it up. This is not a good card, weirdly, is what I'm seeing. There's almost something zombie-like. It's almost like he's emotionally dead. So although it is, should be that balance, it's so out of balance as an energy frequency. And he's got, the lion has a skull between its paws. It's almost like he's reached this emotional kingdom. He's crowned himself king of emotions when he shouldn't be. It's the version of the narcissist that has so little self-worth that they battle to make themselves be more important than they should be. So that's not very good. So let's move on to, so I wanted to bring in I'm going to bring in this one first. So we have the Knight of Cups, which is the King of Cups. And this one is on a white horse because it's a knight. Oh, do you know what? This was a card I was looking for the other day that I couldn't remember, that had the ghost of a peacock on it. Like, there's no further need to communicate because you've worked out all of the emotions and you're raising them up with the energy of Cancer in the cup. The sacred soul, the sacred space, the celestial city, everything's in order with this night, and it's there's a sense of elevating the world with your emotions, elevating others around you. This is a really wonderful frequency, this. And it's almost like all of the past, all of the things, the peacock just down here in the sort of curl of a shell that links into the wings. It's almost like the energy of seeing everything has brought this new energy of understanding forwards and upwards. This one, you see, I think I'm going to push him even further across. I'm going to bring in the Muse of Emotions. I love the Muse of Emotions because there's something about the regenerative energy of the mirror, but both sides are actually not the same. But they're both kind of, there's something about blowing on an ocarina, but they're actually drinking from their bowl. And it's, the past was complicated and the future flows. The energies are together. She's very much got an echo of the Queen of Voices and the Queen of Swords. This kind of short black bobbed hair. But it's interesting because they're the energies that came before in the Queen. This is reaching the balance point. And the starfish and the boat suggests it was a very long and slow journey to reach the starfish just down here. Starfish are a regenerative frequency. If an element of a starfish snaps off, then it regenerates, it grows back, and it's exactly the same. But the idea behind it is, it's like this. It grew back, it's the same thing, but it's new frequency, so it's tidier. So you have these two kind of weird plants at the side there, and then on the other side, there's just the one. And then there's a sense of new creatures, new energies, new fish growing forth. And there's also there's this tiny little sperm at the side of this card. And for a long time I thought it was a mark, and I kept trying to scratch it off. And whether it's in all versions of the deck or it is some kind of misprint, but this tiny little dot is talking about how you've reached such a zen point of emotions that, were you someone who was planning on creating a child with someone, you're bringing a completely clean energetic palette to any offspring, so that they would come in with a much cleaner energy frequency. I just need to look there because I thought I was getting some other kind of, I am. I'm getting a sense of fearlessness. I'm getting a weird energy rabbit with strange wings created by the middle of this being the face, the starfish being the tongue. I can't see what's the eyes. But these are the ears coming down. Oh, it's kind of like there's a connection that's almost over the breast, but it makes a kind of a sort of a rabbit with its tongue out, and that's to be fearless and to have a great sense of luck. I've never seen that before. And then we have this wonderful King of Cups. I love him. He's very much, where's the Queen? The matches, they have the same crown. Salt of the earth emotions, the little watery crown that they're not really wearing, but it's just it's a knowingness. And again, this has a real sense of the grey-haired maturity, his little beard. There's a wonderful ship in the background sensing movement. He's sitting in the water, he has a starfish, and he's got his hand very casually in his emotional singing bowl, and from the centre of his heart, where he's wearing his little fish necklace, he's just totally zen with his emotions, but he's not There's no sense of arrogance to this. This is such a pretty, beautiful card. And then we end with Neptune. It can be no one else but Neptune. So this is to be Zen with ancient emotions. Just as, oh, that's interesting. Just as the King of Fire was ancient fire. This is ancient emotions. This is livers, kidneys and spleen energy when I do healings. This is to be shrouded in a sense of emotional mystery, but to be able to just gift clarity to others. This is a, really wonderful, but it's clarity on very ancient Akashic trauma that you have this gift for. And it carries his trident, and so there's also that energy of Shiva with the trident. But there's a sense of being connected to spirit in a huge way with the angelfish, being pulled into the hand or released from the hand, or just being communicated with. It's this ability to communicate with others, pearls of wisdom. So that's the lovely Neptune as the king. Now we're on the King of Swords. So what do we have with these? Yeah, I guess we'll do it this way. So this King of Swords, he's looking backwards. He's reviewing all the editing that's been done by the various movements through, Seed, Warrior, Bloom, and then Zen. So what I like about the Afro-Brazilian one here is that he's got control of the veil. He's holding the curtain now. Previously the curtain's just hung. He now owns the veil. He can pull the veil open, see what's behind it, and edit. And he's bringing that sword right down. There's an absolute fierce energy in this card. I know that often we talk about this as being doctors and lawyers, but again, this has got that Marleyan. I mean, maybe he really is bringing that energy of Mansa Manama. I have to check that. It's a very distant memory, but the guy that was the world's richest man, I mean, he had something like, they reckon, the equivalent of 600-700 billion because of all the gold he had. But this is someone that's so, this is like a rule changer. It's not just about cutting back, it's about redefining sword of truth energy. He's placing his sword down, and there's no point challenging this because it's correct. Then we have the King of Air, John Pertwee, or Wurzel Gummidge. He is very much about vocal communication. He's very much a monarch. He's very determined. He's almost like his entire being is truth. But he is very powerful. There's something to fear, I always think, about this card. There's not a sense of benevolence on it. He has this, bird-hooked nose. He's looking at you through very steely eyes. It's like, I want to say this is really Aquarian fixed air energy. There's no talking to this person almost. This is not such a comfortable Zen-like space to be in with this card, which is really interesting. So I wouldn't want to get that in a reading as representing me. Whereas this next one, I love this next one, King of Swords. He's been through it all. He's put his sword down. He's got a little dagger. He's got crows and bats, and he's had a huge spiritual transformation. He's like a kind of air shaman. You know, he sits high up on the mountain, up in the lofty spaces far above the natural world, and he's surrounded by fields of wildflowers. He has a really gentle energy, really lovely energy. He's like the Queen of Swords. It's like, we've done that now. We just need to chill out. Knight of Swords in this deck, which is the king, is riding a golden horse, and he's got helicopter hair. Well, it's a hat. His crown is a helicopter. There's something about hovering, but there's something about incoming editing. It's like there's a real focus on changing something. So this card, as part of your soul, would be in the motion right now of understanding how to edit both thoughts and physical. There's something about coming in to cut back and coming in with many different directions. It's not just a sword of truth energy, because he's got two. He's got a few swifts flying around him, 3 swifts, and the clouds are almost bringing sort of like sort of an energy of lightning, but sort of like watery lightning, cloud lightning, a focus to drive into something with almost like bringing with them. This is someone who's almost got too many arguments for why something needs to be changed. It's almost it's a little bit overpowering. It's a bit like him. It's almost there's an uncomfortable edge to this. And then we have the Muse of Voices, and the Muse of Voices is again 2 women. There's someone walking towards the portal of the air through the void, taking their time about it. But this is about a celebration of both the sacral and the heart, which is going back to the Page of Water in the same deck. It's got the same frequency of this, but being much more like you've reached a balance point. You know, this was the birthing, and this is reaching the balance point. There's a wonderful sense of wind and fluidity, but there's also this fantastic, like a cosmic dawn taking place with this muse. You know, the kite flying element to it is the orange of the sacral. The dresses create that kind of pink. There's a sense of choreography and ballet taking place within this card. But what I like very much is the creation of of energy air wings, of cleansing frequency. Like this is a person who knows that to edit is to cleanse. It's to cut out that which doesn't serve us. So, hooray, we're reaching the King of Pentacles. Where are we going with this one? Okay, so we had this face on, the first Zen king that faces full on with his wonderful grape harvest. Now next, the Afro-Brazilian. This card, as I mentioned in another reading, always reminds me of the Lover's card in this deck, because the Lover's card's only one figure, but this is it's, I, 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 I want to say this is a dangerous man. Looking at it, you know, he's armed. He's got, you know, it would be seen as Cupid's bow, but it's like he comes in armed to the hilt. There's something about being in balance with his shadows and his light. He's wrapped in tiny shells. He wears shells on the edges of his arms, his gauntlets, around his neck, around his waist, halfway down. He's very skirted. I want to say it's almost like he's coming across as so divinely in balance, but in his masculinity, there's something very... it's like a kind of... It's almost like looking at someone who at first appears shadowed, hidden by the shadow that's from the brim of his hat, and yet he's worked at everything so much. There's almost something, the shaman monk energy, and he's asking you, or it represents you as someone who is in that frequency of being shamanic or being able to teach others, and it's someone who is non-judgmental. You know, he's I know I said armed to the hilt, but he's armed to the hilt with complete and utter inner knowledge of every single deck we've gone through, and it's you presenting an empty plate to others to say, what do you want to do with it, what do you want to be? So that's interesting. Then we have the Knight of Discs. This is like the war is over. He has his stag helmet and it's been pulled right back. He's weary of all the fighting, all the shadow work. He wears his shadows and his shield radiates the sunlight to others. This is a very, this is like a new dawning. But there's something completely gentle about this. The horse is bowing its head. It's kind of, it is a weapon, but not. It's all kind of dropped and lowered down, but there's something. I kind of want to say that this is someone who's a little bit stunted in. It's almost like this. There is a light shining, but it's almost like they've stopped. That there's no sense of movement that will ever take place to bring them into a new energy. It's that real sense of, I've got somewhere and I won't be moved. There's something very static about that one. This one's charming. This one has his wolf spirit animal with him, and there's something about this guy who sits casually and comfortably in the real world. He's got an ancient oldness to him with his white hair and beard that matches his wolf, and he sits in very casual clothing, but he's deep inside the red root chakra library of all that he's learned and all that he will learn again, and there's something youthful and young and chuckling. Almost I'm picking up that energy of the King of Fire in this King of Pentacles. He's a very magical person, and he's very it's just somebody who everyone would like to know this person. There's something so charming and so beautiful about this King of Pentacles. A lovely energy, really lovely energy. I always like to see that card. And this one, I always sense with this one, this is the energy of having lived to excess. There is an ancientness to it, but he has like a mushroom going on the top of his head, which gives me that frequency of somebody whose time is done. There's something about this card that's fading away, that's almost dead in many ways. His beard, the sides of his moustache are growing into oak leaves, and there are furs. There's something about this card that's got a sense of a madness to it, an uncomfortable energy, like an old stag that needs to be put down. Well, that's interesting. So in terms of this card coming out to represent an aspect of the soul, it's not got the good energies that many of these other cards have. That's really interesting. And then we have the Muse of Materials. This is another gateway, this whole sense of the masculine and the feminine, but it's drawn very much as feminine cards because most of the images in this card are feminine images. But I want to talk about this one as being how you have the key. There's something about the the 4 arms, 4 legs notion, the resplendent coins and the tree of apples growing behind, and the sense of the mind merge card I talked about earlier in the beginning of this deck on the ace of the page of materials. It's the same kind of dress, and it's that sense of this is merging into the earth and connecting your divine feminine to the divine masculine frequency of the earth grid. I know people will go, Mother Earth, that's a separate thing. We're talking about the energy of the earth grid, the Mother Earth energies around the earth grid. This is when you reach your balance between your masculine and feminine. And again, what I love about this one is you sense the keyhole in the middle. So this is about moving to a paradise. This is about having a sense of bliss energy, but that you're on that pathway. It's really coming towards you. So, that's Court Cards 1. I need at some point to do a Court Cards workshop where we talk about how Court Cards represent other people and other aspects of things. And this is what I mean. It's just taken me nearly 2 hours, 40 minutes just to explain how they can represent different aspects of the soul. So really don't be frightened of court cards, but just remember that court cards have got so many different layers hidden within them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Funny that fell off the wall. It felt like it was to shock my system and put some energy through me, because when I first started, I was still in a frequency where I was frightened of doing the workshop almost, because I know how complicated court cards are. And they do, the best tarot readers, sometimes you're doing a reading and 4 court cards come out and you just think, oh bugger, I've got no idea what that's going to mean. And then you have to get clarifiers out because you don't know whether they represent many people, many aspects of somebody. They are really difficult. So by me putting this one out now, we can at least now move on to doing some spreads. Possibly we might be able to do some lives some week where we all bring our tarot decks and we all try and share a reading together by, one person pulling one card, someone pulling another card, and we'll see how that all goes. We've got to have fun with tarot because they've got so many beautiful things to bring to us, but we have to have fun. You really do have to be able to see the joy in having a connection with the tarot. So anyway, wassail. I'm going to go and make myself a nice cup of tea, as I always do after these. So have a beautiful day and much love to everybody. And if you've enjoyed my workshops and you can afford to send me a tip, it's PayPal me/rustling around, and I'll be very grateful because I need to build up some money so that I can move out of here in 2 weeks, and so that will be very helpful. So thank you very much if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. That's good too. I do these things so that we can all have access to them. So anyway, Wassail, you're very beautiful.